I'll show you how to switch frames depending on what needs to be shown to the user. We will cover how to create a settings window that shows content based on what the user selects in a Treeview widget.
Hi, my name is Jobin, and I'm an open source developer. My channel is called JobinPy, and it's all about Python and Linux. Welcome to JobinPy.
So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create this. It's basically a window, and you have a frame on the right hand side, and you have a tree view on the left hand side, and it's a settings dialog. So I can click on audio and have things related to audio to show up on this frame, and I can click on language and have things related to language settings show up in this frame. So it's a very typical settings window, and I'll show you how to create this with Tkinter. Okay, to start things off, I'm going to have a file called settings_view.py, and I'm going to import tkinter as tk, and from tkinter import ttk, and if name equal main, root equal tk.tk, and root.main loop. So basically, if we're importing this file, it won't run this, and if we're executing this file by itself, it will run this section. The first thing that we want to make is our own Treeview class. So I'm going to say class settings Treeview, and it's going to derive from ttk.treeview, and we'll create the init constructor. We'll take in a master and optional keywords, and we'll initialize ttk.treeview here. And here we're going to say self.heading $0, so the very first column that the Treeview widget creates automatically. We want to set the text of that to settings, which will show up at the top of the Treeview. Then we'll add a method called addSetting, and we're going to take in an image, which will be a photo image, and section text as a string. And what this method will do is it will insert a row into our Treeview, and it's basically just a helper method just to make it easier. So the image will be a photo image, which Tkinter likes to use. The section text will be just a string, so that's the name of the setting essentially, such as language or audio. And this won't return anything. And here we'll just put self.insert parent equal a blank string, index equal tk.end, text equal settings. And here we'll also add image equal image. Okay, so this is a fairly basic method. It's just adding a row to our Treeview widget. And next, we need to also create another class. We're going to call it settings view, and it's going to derive from ttk frame. And we're just going to create the constructor here. And we'll initialize ttk.frame. Okay, so here we're basically calling the init method of ttk_frame, and ttk_frame is a superclass, which is why we use super to initialize ttk_frame. I'm going to show you an overview of what the plan is. So this is going to be our window. This is just an illustration. So we have our root window. On our root window, we need to add a frame. And it's basically that same class that we just made. So settings view, and it derives from ttk.frame. This is what we're going to add. It's going to cover the whole window. Then on this frame, we're going to add another frame. and it's going to be called frame underscore Treeview, which will also be a TTK frame. And in this frame, we're going to put a Treeview. And on the right hand side, we're going to have another frame again. And this frame will have the contents of the settings. So from the left hand side, the user will choose the setting, and on the right hand side, it will show the appropriate frame for that setting that the user selects. Okay, so now that we know what the plan is, we're just going to go back into our code. So this is the settings view that we're working on now. And here we're going to have a dictionary. It's just going to be blank for now. The key of this dictionary will be the setting name, such as language or audio, so as a string. The value will be a page object. And a page object is something that we haven't made yet. It's going to derive from a TTK frame. So we'll just put that in there now. So TTK frame. So we should work on this now. So we should create a page class. And our page class, I want to put this into a separate Python file. So I have another file here called page_view.py. And here, I'm going to create a page class. But first, I'm going to write import tkinter as tk from tkinter import ttk. And then class page, and it's going to derive from a TTK frame. Then we're going to initialize it or create the constructor just like the other classes that we just made. Then we're going to create another class that's going to derive from page. So class language page, and it's going to derive from a page class, which we defined up here. And we'll create the init constructor for this as well. And we'll initialize it. And this will contain the contents related to the language page or the language settings area. So we're going to create our own method here. So create frame content, and this will return a TTK frame. So I'm going to put self.frame content equal TTK frame, and I'm going to put it into self. So this frame is going into this language page frame, which is a page, and the page derives from a TTK frame. Then I'm going to create a label. So label title equal ttk.label. And we're going to put this label into self.frame content, and we're going to set the text to this is the language page, and we're going to pack it onto the screen, and we're going to return self.frame content. And up here we can call this method self.createFrameContent.pack fill equal tk.both expand equal true. So we're calling this method, which is going to return a TTK frame, and when it does, we're packing it onto the screen. And what this method is doing is it's going to create the widgets specific to this setting related to language. And it's going to return a TTK frame. Then we're going to have another class, and I'm just going to copy and paste it. The other class is going to be called audio page, and it's just going to be related to things about audio. And the label, we're just going to change it to this is the audio page, like that. Okay, so now that we have page_view completed, we can go back into our settings view file. Now we can import those page classes, which are essentially TTK frames that we created in the other file. So these two files are actually in the same directory, so they'll be easy to import. So I'll say from page underscore view import language page and audio page. So now we can use those two frames in our settings underscore view file. Okay, so continuing with our settings view class here. So we have our pages dictionary created. And again, the key will be the setting name and the value will be a page object. It's going to be an instantiated page object. So currently it's either going to be language page or audio page. And next we'll say give row 0 and column 1 as much room as it needs. So here we're going to put self.grid row configure 0 row 0 weight equal 1 and self grid column configure column 1 weight equal 1. And the reason why we want to give row 0 and column 1 as much room as it needs is because if we go back to the illustration, so this is going to be row 0 column 1. It's going to be the frame page, so the audio page or the language page. And we want this section to have more room allocated to it than the Treeview. So when we resize this settings window, it'll be okay if the frame page increases in size, but we don't want the Treeview on the left to grow in size, or at least not horizontally, not this way. So that's why we're going to give this row and this column more weight than this column here. Okay, so going back to our code, we're going to create another method here. Create frame Treeview, and it's going to return a TTK frame as well. And what this will do is create the frame that will hold the settings Treeview widget, and also instantiate the settings Treeview class. Okay, so this will create the frame on the left of the window that will hold the settings Treeview object. And this will return a TTK frame. So self.frame Treeview equal TTK frame, and we're putting this into self. Now we're going to make the Treeview itself, or instantiate the Treeview itself. So Treeview underscore settings equal settings Treeview, and we're going to put it into self.frame Treeview, which we just defined up here. And we also need a binding. So self.treeview underscore settings dot bind, and we're going to bind Treeview select to a method that we haven't created yet. So essentially when the user selects a setting, we want the frame to change. And this is where the binding for the change occurs. Okay, so we should create a method for when the selection changes in the Treeview widget. And we're going to call this on Treeview selection changed. And it's going to pass in an event automatically. And here we're going to switch to the frame related to the newly selected setting. And it's not going to return anything. So selected item equal self.treeview settings dot focus. So we're going to get the selection. We're going to get the selected item, which will be the unique identifier. So this won't contain the text. It'll contain the identifier, the unique identifier, such as I001 or I002 as a string. Then we need to get the setting name. So now we want to get the actual text of the selected item in the Treeview. So we'll say self.treeview settings.item, and the item that we're interested in is the selected item. And it's going to return a dictionary, and from that we want to run the get method on the dictionary and get the text. So now this variable should contain the text that the user selected, or the from the Treeview. And here we need to show a page based on the setting. So we need to come back here and finish this. The binding, we're going to run self.onTreeView selection changed. And now we're going to pack this tree view onto the screen. Fill equal tk.both, expand equal true. And now we need to actually run this method in our init constructor. So self.create frame tree view, and we're going to grid this. So row equal 0, column equals 0, sticky equal ENS. So we want this to stick to the east, to the north, and the south. So this is what we're gridding. So this is going to go into column 0 and row 0. And we want this to stick to the left, to the top, and to the bottom. Okay, and that's why we have ENS here. Next, we need another method, create frame page. And this will also return a TTK frame. And the purpose of this method is it's going to create the frame that will show the current setting page. And it's going to return a TTK frame. So here we're going to say self.frame_page equal TTK frame, and we're going to put this into self, and self is the settings view itself, which is a TTK frame. And we're going to return self.frame_page. And from here, we're going to run this method. So self.createFramePage.grid, row equals 0, column equal 1. Oh, up here, I forgot to put column equals 0. There we go. Row equals 0, column equal 1. And that's all we need for that. And we should create a show page method as well in this to do section. So on tree view selection changed, here we need to show the frame based on the selection. So we need another method, show page, and we're going to ask for the setting name, which will be a string. And the purpose of this method is it will pack forget all pages and pack the given page name. And the parameters, the setting name is the setting/page to show, and it won't return anything. And here we need to loop through the pages for page name in self.pages.keys. So we're just going to loop through the keys, and the keys are the setting names, such as language or audio. Self.pages and the page name .pack forget. And what this loop is doing is it's going through all the frames or all the page objects in the pages dictionary, and it's going to run the pack_forget method on those frames. And this will cause those frames to not show on the screen. And even if they're not already packed on the screen, it won't raise an error. So it's okay to run this method even if a frame or if the object isn't currently packed on the screen. Then we'll say self.pages setting name .pack fill equal tk.both expand equal true. So now we're packing the setting that we're interested in. So this line is causing the setting that the user selected to show up on the right hand side. So it's going to show up here essentially. Okay, so we have our show page method created. We just need to call it here, and we're going to call it when the tree view selection changes. So we're going to change this to self.showPage, and we just need to pass the setting name like that. Now it's time to create our next method, add page, and we're going to ask for the image path as a string, setting name as a string, and a page, which will be a page class. So at this point, it hasn't been instantiated yet. And the purpose of this method is instantiate a page frame and add it to the pages dictionary. So the image path will be a path to an image file. Setting name will be just a string. Page will be a page class, and it will return none. Okay, so now we need to load the image and convert it to a photo image. And this image is the little icon that will appear on the left-hand side of the setting. So it's going to show up like here, it'll say setting, and on the left you'll have the icon. I have icons in the same folder as my project here, but first I need to import the pillow library. So I'll say from pil import image and image tk, and the reason why we import both of them is image will load the image as a regular image object, and image tk will be used to convert the image into a photo image, because Tkinter likes to use photo images. Okay, and in add page, we're still in the settings view class. So we're still actually in here. Okay, so load the image and convert it to a photo image. So with image.open image path as img, and now convert it to a photo image. So I'll say photo image equal image tk dot photo image, and I'll pass an img from here. And here I'll say add page to dictionary, so we can show it when needed. Self.pages, and then we're going to use the setting name as the key, equal page self.frame page. So here we're instantiating the page class that we provide here, and this dictionary will have instantiated versions of the setting frames. So that means anytime we need to show a setting frame, it's already instantiated and ready to go. We just have to show the frame. Next line is keep a reference to the image so that it doesn't get garbage collected. And this one's important. If we don't keep a reference to this photo image, Python will garbage collect the photo image, and then our image won't actually appear in the tree view. And the reason is we're loading the image in a class. So this is something that has to be done so that the image stays in the tree view. So self.pages setting name dot image equal photo image, and we're just keeping a reference to the image by attaching it to this dictionary. And then on the next line, insert the setting name into the settings tree view. So self.treeview settings, this is the tree view that we made ourselves, and .add setting, this is the method that we created. Image equal photo image, section text equal setting underscore name. And now we need to scroll to the bottom here, and now we can instantiate our settings view class. So first let's change the geometry a little bit. So let's give the window a width and height. So 640 by 480. Settings equal settings view. And we're putting this into root. And let's just set the relief to flat so it looks a bit more modern. and settings.addPage image path equal language.png. I already have this in the same folder as my project. Setting name equal language, and the page will be the language page class. Next one's going to be the same thing but for audio. So add page image path equal audio.png, setting name equal audio, and page equal audio page, like that. And now we need to pack this onto the screen because this is a frame. .pack fill equal tk.both, expand equal true. Okay, so let's just run this and see what we get. Oh, so here we're getting an error. So if we go to create frame Treeview, we're supposed to return a TTK frame, but I don't think I did that. No, so return self.frame or return self.frame underscore Treeview. So I just wasn't returning this Treeview here. Okay, so let's just run that again. There we go. Okay, so for some reason it says settings here twice. Let's just have a look at that. Oh, actually the problem is the add setting method. I put here text equal settings. I should have put text equal section text. So in add underscore setting, in our settings Treeview class, so in this one, the add setting method should actually be text equal section text, which we're getting from here. So let's just run this again. There we go. That looks better. And you can see that it switches the page as we change our selection. So it's definitely working. But let's make this look a bit better. I'm going to use TTK styles to make it look better. And I'm just going to copy and paste some of the styles that I have here. So, and I'm going to explain what this style section here does. So we're instantiating a ttk.style class and putting it into that variable. I'm configuring treeview.heading by making the relief flat to give it a more modern look. We're changing the background to white. We're changing the row height of items in the tree view to 28. And here we're saying that whenever something gets selected, whenever a row gets selected in the tree view widget, then make the foreground text color dark green and change the background color to light green. So this is what this section is doing. And here we're saying make the font of all TTK labels the default TK font, but size 18 just to make it bigger. Okay, and let's just run this again. And we can see that it already looks more modern. And the height of the row is larger as well, so it's a bit easier to read. It's not as squished. So this is how you can switch frames using Tkinter. It uses classes quite heavily. One thing I would like to point out is in our page underscore view class, you'll notice that I'm using language page and audio page, and these are all essentially just frames. And you might wonder, well, why not just derive from TTK frame, and why are we deriving from a page? The benefit of having a page is that later on you could actually add option specific methods to a page. For example, if your user is looking at a specific setting, let's say the audio page, and if they haven't chosen a sound card, you can have your program ask the user to choose a sound card. So you can have a method in here to say verify. And here you can return true if everything in that settings page looks okay, or you can return false if the user needs to do something on that settings page. So that's why I think it's important to have a separate class called page, or something like page, where you can do some integrity checks, to make sure that what the user has provided or the settings that have been chosen are actually valid or not. But these are the main building blocks for creating a settings window like this. You can also use this technique to create a wizard where you can click on next and it goes to the next step, whether it's an installer or if you're asking the user for information. So you can use this in a step-by-step wizard interface as well. It's the same kind of idea. You would have pages, and typically you would have a dictionary to hold those pages.
We saw how to switch frames in a Tkinter application. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Until the next tutorial, thanks for watching.